Ahoy, and welcome back to Leia's Library. Find yourself a cozy corner, get yourself something nice and cozy to drink, and let's get started. Today we will be challenging the age-old adage or saying that the book was always better, because sometimes it's just not. Very rarely, but sometimes. So today I have 5 adaptations that were better than their original book version. So yeah, some of these might be some hot takes, but it's okay. We're just here to have fun. Let's get into it. If I sound awful, it's because I'm still recovering from COVID. I went 3 years avoiding it, and my time ran out. I'm recovered from it. I no longer have it, but I just have some persistent symptoms that refuse to leave. I've been sick since January, essentially. It's just been one thing after another. I don't remember what physical wellness felt like. I am eager to relearn. Anyway, let's get started. We're gonna start with Kiki's Delivery Service by Eiko Kadono. I would like to preface this by saying that most of, all of the things I'm going to be talking about today, it's not that the books are bad, it's just that, in my opinion, their adaptations are better. And that goes for Kiki's Delivery Service. Kiki's Delivery Service is a middle grade fantasy story about a little witch who turns 13 and, as per witch traditions, has to go live by herself in a new town for a whole year. And it just follows her, the things she gets up to in that town. And the Studio Ghibli movie that it was adapted into is very similar. All the characters are there and are pretty much the same. The only thing is that the original book is very episodic. So each chapter is kind of like a new delivery that Kiki goes on and what she learns from that one delivery. Whereas the Studio Ghibli movie kind of, it is still like very character focused. There's not really a plot to the film, which I think works quite well for this story, but there is more of like an overarching theme, and Kiki goes on more of like a linear emotional journey as opposed to like a physical one. So that's why I think the movie is a slightly better experience, but the book is still very charming, and I do recommend it to people whether or not they've seen the Studio Ghibli movie. But if you're going to go for one or the other, I would point you in the direction of the Ghibli movie, because it's everything. Next up is Good Omens by Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman, which is a book that is about these two characters. One is an angel and one is a demon, who meet at the beginning of everything, really, and forge an unlikely friendship. Having been alive for millennia on Earth, they've kind of grown accustomed to Earth and its comforts, which is a bit of a problem because the Antichrist has just been born. So they decide to work together to raise the Antichrist to just be a normal kid. So hopefully he doesn't go about with the whole world ending thing. Except the Antichrist goes missing. So that's the premise for both the book and the TV show that it was adapted into in 2019. And again, I do really enjoy the book. It is actually one of my favorite books, but I do think the show kind of allowed it to kind of blossom a little bit more. So the book is written by 2 different people, and it kind of feels like it's written by 2 different people. I know Terry Pratchett did most of the like hands-on writing, but there are sections that you can very clearly tell like, oh, this was written by Neil Gaiman. The book also has some signs of its time. There is, most notably, the one that I kind of warn people about is there's a little like very mild touch of just kind of like mild homophobia. especially in regards to Aziraphale, the angel character. It's nothing like terrible, but it is something that, like, if you don't think it's gonna be in there, it might be kind of surprising. But the show doesn't have that. The show actually leans into the fact that they may or may not be in love with each other in their own celestial way or divine way. What are angels and demons? They didn't even talk about this in the show. They're not a cult. I don't know. In their own ethereal way, they're in love, which is also what I choose to believe. The book is also intended to be a parody of The Omen, which is a horror. I don't know if it was originally a book. I know it's a movie. And so as part of that, there are certain elements that, if you're not familiar with that, probably kind of stick out, that in the show I think they do a better job of like working in more naturally. And the ending of the book, I won't spoil anything, but it is kind of like an anticlimax, and I think the show does a more satisfying job of wrapping things up. Now, I am saying this before season 2 comes out, so I'm talking specifically about season 1. Season 1 is my favorite television show ever. So yeah, again, same with Kiki's Delivery Service. I think you will get a good experience no matter which one you choose, but if we're talking about my opinion, I would push you towards the TV show. Also, David Tennant and Michael Sheen, who play Aziraphale and Crowley, are just perfect. I don't think I've ever seen more phenomenally perfect casting. They're amazing. Next up, this might hurt some folks, because I think the Lord of the Rings films are superior to the books. I don't know if that's a hot take. I know some people would definitely think it's a hot take, but hear me out. So, I think the Lord of the Rings books are good. I enjoyed them, but J.R.R. Tolkien has a very particular writing style, and that style is 80% descriptions, like 80% paysage, like landscape descriptions, or nature descriptions, or clothing descriptions, just descriptions of anything. So the books are 80% descriptions, 15% plot, 5% characters. You can defend anything about J.R.R. Tolkien or his writing, and I'll be like, yeah, okay, to each their own, that's fine. But you cannot sit there, look me in the eye, in my real eyes, and tell me that J.R.R. Tolkien in the Lord of the Rings books was great at writing characters. I'm sorry, I refuse to believe you, because have you read them? They're all kind of the same. They just kind of get generic, like one word gets attached to each of them, and that's kind of it. They're not very complex characters in Lord of the Rings, and that's fine. I prefer more complex characters, but I enjoy the story of Lord of the Rings, the books, so it's whatever. But I just find that the films do a much better job at presenting these characters as, like, actual characters, on top of, like, getting the story so correct. They did a very good job at adapting it, and I just think it's a better experience than the books. The movies also just found a really good, like, they knew when to trim things and when to add things, so I just think it's a better experience. And if you're a mega fan of the books, that's great. I'm super happy for you. I also read them at least twice, but I can't say I don't know if I enjoyed the experience. I enjoyed parts of it, but I mean, there were a lot of descriptions. I did not need that many descriptions. World building. 80% world building, 15% plot, 5% characters. World building was the word I was looking for. Whoopsie. Next is the Shadow and Bone trilogy by Leigh Bardugo, which was adapted into a Netflix TV series in the past couple of years. Season 2 just came out at my time of filming this, and I have watched it. I read the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I have not read the Six of Crows duology yet. I am planning on reading it, and I know that duology is seen as the better of the two, or I think there's 3 now, series that all take place within the Grishaverse. So the books are fine. I wouldn't say they're anything great. I thought the characters were interesting. I thought the magic in the world is interesting, and I thought it was interesting to have a magic world that was based on Russian culture. I thought that was pretty cool. But the books are, for lack of a better word, very YA is how I like to describe them. There's a lot of romances that are not necessarily necessary, and some of the romantic prospects are very confounding to me. And there's a lot of jealousy, which is a thing that really bothers me, and it's toned down in the series. Also the costumes in the series, those keftas look amazing. Also, I've heard, and I'll full disclosure, I think I'm not entirely sure. I enjoy the series, but I do think part of that is that I follow a lot of cosplayers on Instagram because I am a cosplayer, and all of or at least the vast majority of the Asian or mixed race Asian cosplayers that I follow, when this series came out with a mixed race Asian lead, they were so happy and they were so excited to finally see themselves represented in a fantasy series. And I've read so many of their posts about how they finally feel seen and how they have hope for the future for mixed race Asian actors and Asian actors getting leads in fantasy and all these different genres. So part of it has definitely been me reading that and just being so happy for them, because their joy and excitement was really infectious. So I love this show for that aspect alone, and it's enjoyable also, and the costumes. Also, the show has Ben Barnes. I don't think I need to say anything more. Okay, last on the list is my favorite movie. It is the 2003 live-action adaptation of Peter Pan with Jason Isaacs as Hook and Mr. Darling. Where do I even start? I want to do an entire video dedicated to this film alone because I have so much to say about it. So I will keep it brief. This version of Peter Pan gets Peter Pan right. Also, it's a lot less racist than the original book and most other adaptations. I do really enjoy the Peter Pan book, but that is something that I kind of have to preface when talking to people about it. Hey, this book is really cute, it's very charming and whimsical, but it's also quite racist in regards to indigenous peoples, because the representation of an indigenous tribe that was created for the book, but it's still horrible. It's really bad. Very bad, not good. But you know what is good? The representation in the 2003 Peter Pan live action film. And on top of that, It's just everything about this movie is incredible. Like, even the child acting is quite good for, like, child acting. And it gets the story right. And I will go into that in a longer video, because if I start now, we'll be here all day. But needless to say, if you are looking for a way to enjoy Peter Pan, please watch the 2003 live-action Peter Pan with Jason Isaacs as Captain Hook and Mr. Darling. I don't like to guarantee things, but I can almost guarantee you will be in for a good time. It's so cute and it's so beautiful, and it understands. It understands the source material, and then it elevates it by not making it racist. And also by adding on other, like, themes that mesh really well with the original book. And just... I have to stop now, because otherwise, like I said, I'll be here all day. But yeah, Peter Pan, 2003. And that's everything on the list for today. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what book adaptation you think is better than its original book down in the comments. I would love to hear more. Until next time, if you would like to find me elsewhere, you can find me on Instagram as Leia Like the Princess, where you can also find my little embroidery and art store, Moonlight Cat Creations, or you can go directly to its website at moonlightcatcreations.com. Thank you again for watching, and until next time, stay cozy. And watch Peter Pan 2003, the live-action version with Jason Isaacs.